Mr. College Football, Joel Klatt. Come on, bring it.
What's up?
You know, they just legalized beer drinking in Wisconsin last week.
Well, at the stadium, at least.
Yeah.
They've been drinking it other places. Anyways, yeah, I can't wait for this matchup, boy. I tell you what, Michigan with their struggles offensively against what is right now, and I know it's only been 2 games, and I understand that Wisconsin's opponents have not been great, but Wisconsin's the number 1 total defense, scoring defense, rushing defense, passing efficiency defense. They haven't given up a point. Have not given up a point. And so now Michigan, with their struggles offensively through the first 2 games, have to go face that defense. I can't wait to watch this thing play out.
You and I have defended Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, and rightly so, but yes.
Okay. This weekend.
Are you about to jump?
Listen, I like a guy.
Get away from the ledge.
No.
Just step back.
4 years in, you got to be able to beat Wisconsin at Michigan.
Okay.
Bo Schembechler was beating Wisconsin.
I think Wisconsin is really good. I mean, Wisconsin is in the top 10. I'm not ready to throw Jim Harbaugh out.
I'm not throwing him out. I'm saying I'm a huge Harbaugh fan. He's got to own this offense. It's not getting better.
Well, that's interesting that you say that because this is the least involved he's been with any of his offenses at any level. So if you go back to his days at San Diego, that's where he started as a head coach, San Diego. Then he goes to Stanford. Then he goes to the 49ers. Now he's with Michigan. This is unequivocally the least involved Jim Harbaugh has ever been with an offense of his team.
Well, what does that mean?
Let me tell you what it means. So in every game plan or offensive meeting in the past, at wherever he's been involved in the offensive meetings.
So what's he doing now? Having crackers down the hall?
Now he's being more of a CEO.
What does that mean?
He's left it to Josh Gaddis. So he will pop in on one of those meetings, and then he'll go spend time with the special teams and with the defense. And he's more of
hover.
More of a hoverer, and he's less involved in the actual game planning. So now he's doing more of the CEO type of deal versus being involved in the actual play calling on Saturday, being involved specifically in the game planning during the course of the week. So I think that's interesting. I don't know if people out there know that. This Jim Harbaugh handed the keys to his whole program offensively to Josh Gaddis, who had never called plays before in his life.
Right.
And now this is Josh Gaddis' offense.
Sounds like you're throwing Josh Gaddis under a bus a little.
Am I?
No, it's everybody's like, so if it fails, Josh Gaddis, get him out of here. Hey, this is Harbaugh's team. I don't want to hear about some coordinator.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all.
Who's this Gaddis guy? How old is he?
Gaddis is a young guy. He's in his 30s. He was at Alabama last year as a co-coordinator with Mike Locksley.
I never even heard of him.
He comes from the Joe Moorhead tree. If those of you that are following this, Joe Moorhead is the head coach at Mississippi State. Bad loss, by the way, last week to Kansas State.
He's a great coach.
He is a great coach offensively. And what he did at Penn State, he came from Fordham, the FCS, and he goes to Penn State with Trace McSorley and Saquon Barkley. And then Nick Saban was like, hey, I want to run that offense.
Okay.
So he went and he got some guys that were disciples of Joe Moorhead as Joe Moorhead moved to Mississippi State. One of them was Josh Gaddis. He was at Bama last year. And Harbaugh said, hey, I want that offense. And so he got Josh Gaddis.
But if they lose, Josh Gaddis gets nailed because he was a co-coordinator of a college football team. And now the whole if they stink Saturday at Wisconsin.
You say that with such disdain.
I don't have disdain for anybody in life.
He's the midday host at KWX in Seattle.
Yeah. I mean, if you're any good, you're doing drive time. The point is, you can't blame Josh Gaddis if this thing unravels. I don't want to hear about Josh Gaddis.
I'm not saying it's Josh Gaddis' fault or anything.
He was a coach
I'm
at
just
Fordham.
telling you facts.
You know, he's the guy that you
want facts or do you not want facts? This is Big J journalism right here.
I'll tell you what, we are the standard of journalism, but if you're going to be Jim Harbaugh and make $7 large a year, then don't give me Josh Gaddis.
I just told you the truth of what was going on, and I don't disagree with you. And they've got to fix what's going on in the short yardage, okay? So Michigan struggled in the last couple of games in short yardage, and that's not acceptable in particular for a Harbaugh team, which has been great at that during the course of the last few years.
All right, let's do big
game.
So years ago,
go ahead.
Mason Rudolph played for Oklahoma State. You did a couple of their games.
Few of their games, that's right.
He had a shootout with Baker Mayfield, who's not working in the NFL.
Not working. I guess throwing for 300 yards, winning by 20 is not working.
Do you know since he became starter in the NFL, leads the NFL in interceptions?
He's played for like 8 games. Listen to Peter King.
He's a human bakery. Everything. I mean, give me a break, Baker. Last night was embarrassing.
It was? I didn't realize winning by 20 and throwing for 300 yards in the National Football League is embarrassing.
Was not a good look.
It wasn't. Really? What is a good look?
Jets missing 7 starters, and they rushed for more than you. They had more time of possession and almost as many first downs.
I didn't know Baker was responsible for the run game in Cleveland.
Okay, so let's go to Mason.
Look at you, Chase. Look at that. I mean, that was just like a beeline. Joey,
okay, Mason Rudolph, can he play?
Yes, he can play. In fact, I thought that coming out, he was one of the best throwers of the football that we had coming out of college.
You said that, actually. I remember that.
And he's a big, strong-arm quarterback, very accurate down the field, was a great deep ball thrower in the college ranks.
You liked him.
I liked him. What I thought he was going to struggle with, which would take some time, which was the schematics of the game, because Oklahoma State was a little less intricate than, let's say, in Oklahoma that has produced the other quarterbacks that we're talking about. So he needed some time. Pittsburgh was the perfect spot for him because of that. He could sit and he could learn. He could get comfortable in the National Football League. I won't be surprised at all if he has some success, and he's got the threat on the outside that he had in college, which is that guy James Washington.
Yeah, they played together.
They were great. I thought they were, at the time, the best deep threat in college football combination. He's a very good player. I will not be surprised at all if he has some success.
All right, let's go to this. Daniel Jones, you didn't broadcast any games, but I did not. You did. You were a little questionable. I don't love his arm strength.
I was hard on the Giants for their pick. I thought it was the wrong place to pick Daniel Jones. If it works out, then it was the right place to pick him. The thing that I thought about Daniel Jones is I thought that we had seen the best that Daniel Jones had to offer. I didn't see much upside. I didn't see much potential. Now, having said that, he played great in the preseason. The regular season is far different than the preseason, so we'll see how this all plays out in New York. I thought that there were guys with better potential. However, I did say at that time he was the most pro-ready at the time, if you needed a guy to play tomorrow. So maybe their selection of Daniel Jones actually was more of a clue of what they thought of Eli Manning in terms of his longevity or how long this was actually going to play out in reality, because now it's here. And it's Daniel Jones' era, and I think maybe that selection was less about, hey, we just love Daniel Jones, and more about, hey, this is not going to work long-term, and we're going to need somebody to play within the first 3, 4, 5 weeks of the NFL season.
You know, it's funny. He actually, in a uniform, looks like Eli. I'm not joking.
He does.
He literally looks like Eli Manning.
I was looking at that picture, like he looks like he could be Eli's son.
Eli's son.
He basically, he throws like he's a more athletic version. He's like Alex Smith, straight line speed. He's not clever like Lamar, but he can run. If you just give him the ball and say go for 30 yards, he can run. All right, let's segue back to the college football, where I'm going to teach you a couple lessons here. Let's start with this. I'll teach you. You've been very critical of Brian Kelly at Notre Dame, to the point where I'm uncomfortable. I got to tell you something.
What are you talking about?
A lot of times.
When did I? What?
It's a lot of negativity, but it's subtle.
I totally disagree. I'm the one out here defending Notre Dame when you're taking shots at them about, it's a cold climate, it's a religious undertones, and I just don't think they can be great anymore. And I'm like, no, they're one of the biggest brands in college football. And then today, all of a sudden, you're like, you've been critical of Brian Kelly. They're one of the top brands.
I'm going to throw this
What is this?
I'll tell you, it's an inquisition. I think this quarterback, Ian Book, I think Notre Dame's got a shot at Georgia. I saw the line this morning. It was 15. I'm like, I think Notre Dame can play with Georgia.
Here's why that line is where it's at.
Why?
Is because Georgia is an elite rushing team. They're leading the SEC again, 286 yards a game on the ground. And if you were to look at Notre Dame, they played only 2 games because they've already had one of their off weeks. They played Louisville, then they had their off week, then they came back. Their game in the opening week against Louisville, the one question mark I had coming out of that game was their run defense. They missed a lot of tackles, gave up far too many yards per rush, and that was against Louisville. And so now you're going to face a team in Georgia that is far superior from a rushing standpoint. That's the concern for me with Notre Dame, and I think that's why the line is where it's at, because that's what Notre Dame is going to try to do, and that's where Notre Dame has fallen short a bit early in the season. But I am absolutely a Brian Kelly defender. I think that Notre Dame is and should be and will be a great program in college football.
I like Ian Book. I like him.
Ian Book is a very good player. There's no doubt about it. They, right now as a program, with Book as their quarterback, with their head coach, they're in a very Michigan-esque type of spot, in that they need one of these wins.
Yeah, but I think they're better than Michigan, because Book's better than...
they beat Michigan last year.
Yeah, and I think they're better. I think this Ian Book kid, I think he'll play in the NFL.
Potentially.
Shea Patterson's not playing in the NFL.
Maybe, maybe not. All I'm saying is that when they've gotten on this stage, the national narrative tends to be like, well, they can't play with the teams from the SEC.
You know who this guy is? You know who Ian Book is? I'm not joking.
Please.
He's a better athlete, little less of a thrower than Baker Mayfield. I think he's really good. He's not the thrower that Baker is.
So Is this a compliment for Baker? Because you love Ian.
No, but I think Ian Book's going to get drafted in the 3rd round. Baker got drafted number 1. He got overdrafted.
Which he should have been taken.
All
number
right,
1.
let me give you one more lesson.
I'm just telling you right now, Notre Dame needs one of these from a national playoff perspective narrative. They need one of these wins based on how they played in the national championship game a few years ago, which is unfair to the current batch of kids there, and then how they played last year against Clemson in the semifinal.
Right, we're not gonna do your upset of the week anymore. I stopped.
Oh, that's right, because I was 2-0 last week. You don't want me to upstage you. By the way, I'll do it. It's Oklahoma State. Watch out, Texas. Oklahoma State is a good football team. Watch out for Oklahoma State this week.
I'll make a lock
with the Longhorns.
Texas wins by 20.
All right.
It's my lock of the week.
You did that out of spite. Look at your eyes.
No. Hey, Goulet, this morning, what did I come in? What was my lock of the week?
You yesterday you said you were on Texas.
Yeah. I got a bunch of sources.
All right, we'll see.
My sources are impenetrable.
Loser sits with a cobra next week.
Okay, finally, I want more of my sources?
Please.
Yeah, might as well give you one. So here it is. Here's what I told a big shot, a CEO of a major corporation in America. They are done with Chip Kelly. It's not the record. It's not the record. He's not doing the booster stuff. He's disengaged with recruiting. He's too aloof. He's not part of the family. It's not the losing. Chip Kelly's running out of allies at UCLA fast.
That's interesting because we have not seen in college football a lot of is guys getting fired for performance reasons in only 2 seasons. Right? That's very uncommon.
But he is seen as so iconoclastic and so sort of aloof. If you don't have allies in a building,
I don't disagree with you.
Everybody here loves me, so I'm safe. You're on the road all the time. You need to make more friends here. So you're like Chip Kelly. You got very few allies.
Oh.
I think he's in trouble.
I'm almost positive that my equity in this building might even be larger than yours. However, having said that, Chip, here's I think where he's missing the boat is that he's so staunchly saying, I'm not running my offense that I ran at Oregon. And it's like, well, that's why we hired you. Is to do that, to do what you did at Oregon. That's why you're here. You're not here to run the Philadelphia Eagles offense. You're not here to run San Francisco 49ers offense. It's not working. When it comes to yards per play, they are dead last in the country.
I know.
In yards per play offense.
I know.
4.1. That's not, it's not working. And one of the other things, you have to look at dynamics. If it was a young athletic director that was hanging his hat on this hire, Chip would be safe right now.
It's a veteran.
It is a veteran in Dan Guerrero that I don't think he's going to retire soon.
Yes.
So you might be right. And
this is a source. It's not an opinion. By the way, raise your hand if you like, in this room, if you like me more than Klatt, raise your hand.
One hand is joy.
Oh, I have no
Goulet.
choice. I have no choice.
And Goulet?
No, Goulet didn't raise his hand.
Nice,
We
Goulet.
see you once a week. I have to sit across from Colin
I
every day.
lowered my
Joy,
hands
that
so there'd be
hurt.
no
A
confusion.
lot of people here
That
like
hurt a
me.
little bit.
A lot of people like me here.
That hurt a little bit.
I do like having you on.
I love to be on the show.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.